Joining us now is Sirine Shebaya, National Immigration Project Executive Director, who is representing one of the families impacted, and Norm Eisen. He is the chair of State Democracy Defenders Fund and former special counsel and special assistant to President Obama. Sirine, the White House says these mothers wanted to bring their children with them when they were deported. You say that's not true. What can you tell us about the family you represent?
Thank you, Anna. What I can tell you is that the moms were picked up at what should have been a very routine ICE check-in. They were there with their children, and then they were whisked away and essentially held without communication with the outside world. The first mom was there for 3 full days. There were multiple outreaches made to immigration authorities, providing information about the availability at all times of a legal custodian to take the U.S. citizen child, requesting legal visits, requesting a meaningful conversation between mom and dad so that they could jointly kind of talk about the best interests of the child and what the options were. And all of those requests were denied by immigration authorities who were fully aware of the situation. The second mom was brought in on Thursday morning, and then within 24 hours, the deportation of both parents happened. And with the second mom, one of her kids actually is in late-stage cancer treatment. He has stage 4, a very rare form of stage 4 cancer. He was undergoing cancer treatment. The mom specifically objected to her kids being taken with her, in part for that reason, and asked to speak to an attorney. On the outside, the attorney was asking to speak to her, and none of that happened. There was a request for a stay of deportation. I think the picture that's being given by Mr. Homan and others is simply false. That is not what was happening in the situation. Neither mom thought that they had any choice in the situation. They were simply told that their children were going with them, and the attorneys and family members and community supporters on the outside who were trying to reach them were forbidden from doing so. So it was very much a situation of being under duress and being forced to get on a 6 a.m. flight, after being hidden from the world for a period of time.
And so they have now been removed from this country. What are you doing to try to get these children back to the States?
Well, so there is an open court case on behalf of BML, the 2-year-old U.S. citizen child. We are also in regular communication with the attorneys for the other 2 U.S. citizen children. We're exploring all of those options. And I do want to point out, actually, that there's another part of this narrative that is simply untrue, which is neither of those moms came here illegally. They were both coming. One of them came as an asylum seeker, and the other one came as an unaccompanied child. And for reasons that were completely beyond their control, they got in absentia orders of removal, meaning they were issued without their presence. So neither of those moms ever actually had a chance to really present their own legal cases for being in the United States. And so I think we're exploring all of the different legal options that are out there to remedy the lack of due process and the harm that has been visited on both those families.
Well, we really appreciate you bringing us all the context around these cases, helping us understand some of the dynamics in play. Norm, we've also talked about the Kilmar Abrego Garcia case, where someone with protected status was deported to that notorious prison in El Salvador. And now we're talking here about U.S. citizens who were removed. What alarm bells does this ring?
Anna, this United States Supreme Court has said 9-0 in these illegal abduction cases, because that's what you have here. The government is abducting people and shipping them out of the country, and 9-0. Even Donald Trump's strongest supporters on the right wing of that Supreme Court has said, hey, all people in the United States are entitled to due process. And what we just heard was a series of shocking violations of due process of the Constitution. It's part of a larger pattern. 100 days of the Trump administration, 100 days of constitutional violations. My organization, the State Democracy Defenders Fund, represents almost 36 conservatives, Anna. Every presidential administration, from Nixon to Trump 1, that has filed briefs in these cases saying this is not constitutional. This is not due process. This is not American, and it's not conservative. Donald Trump represents a total break. The good news is there's been massive court pushback. It's not only 100 days of constitutional and legal violations. It's almost 100 orders declaring them illegal. It's 100 days of failure by Donald Trump. We must continue to push because this is not what America's about.
I mean, Sirine, not only have we seen all the heavy lifting that many lawyers like yourself and Norm have gotten involved in here with these different cases and controversies, controversial moves from this Trump administration, but we've also seen a reshaping of the Department of Justice. We've learned in recent days more than 100 lawyers have left the Justice Department's Civil Rights Division after changes that Attorney General Bondi made to civil rights enforcement. How significant are those changes that you may have seen in enforcement in just these first 100 days of this administration?
I think the changes are extremely significant, Ana, because it is truly unprecedented to remove someone, for example, because they told the court the truth. That is actually an oath that as attorneys we swear. And in the attorney, for example, representing the government in the Kilmar Abrego Garcia case, my understanding is that he was removed from his position because he told the court the truth about what was happening when asked a question. And, you know, I don't know all the details of that case, but it does seem like there have been many instances of that. And what it means is that it makes it much harder to, in good faith, try to resolve legal issues that are clear before even going to court. And this case is actually, the case of the U.S. citizen children is a very good example of that. Our attorneys reached out to government attorneys to say, look, this is a very obvious situation. You have a 2-year-old U.S. citizen child. You have legal custodians ready to take them. There's no need to go to court. Let's just figure this out. And they just simply refuse to do that. So, like, we're seeing a certain intransigence and just, like, you know, a dishonesty, to be honest, in the way that these cases are being handled, which is truly not how we would expect to relate. I mean, we're on opposite sides of the fence, but we normally have very good abilities to kind of communicate with government attorneys, and this has really not been the case recently.
And Norm, you talk about these first 100 days and a defining feature of this presidency so far being court fights. NBC has counted more than 200 lawsuits against the administration so far. Where do you see the rule of law in the next 1,362 days of this presidency?
Well, Ana, at State Democracy Defenders Fund, we've been involved in dozens and dozens of those cases. I think of these 100 days as like the rounds of a heavyweight championship fight. This was round one, the first 100 days. There'll be 14 more rounds. But in round one, Donald Trump's flood the zone of unconstitutional, illegal behavior, deporting American citizens, for heaven's sake, has been met with rule of law shock and awe. And he has lost again and again in court, including in these foreign abduction cases and in so many more. I'll be back in court tomorrow where we got an order protecting 6,000 FBI agents from Donald Trump and his administration's attack. Last week, we saw more than 7 preliminary injunctions and other emergency relief in 1 week alone. His attack has been intense, but he has not won that first round. The court actions have set off other reactions, massive public protests. Donald Trump and his agenda have been losing in landslide in elections, including that Wisconsin Supreme Court election. There was a referendum on Trump and Musk. Political leadership is showing up stronger and stronger now. So you're seeing the democracy respond forcefully to Donald Trump's wrongdoing.